Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Join Us today. We're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle. We're on DTT because we're free to air on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 125. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon, 10 days old baby dies in a suspected case of medical negligence at KNUST Hospital following the parents taking him for some circumcision. Also, Supreme Court unanimously dismisses cases asking that it stops Parliament from proceeding with its consideration of the anti-gay bill. We have details for you. Plus, Majority Chief Whip defends the absence of his colleagues, insisting not all MPs have to be on the floor unless for ceremonial events. We have details as he explains why many of his NPP colleagues are on official duties and some on medical leave. Also, disturbing revelations, late presentation and misdiagnosis contributing to 20% survival rate of children with cancer treated at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. There's more as experts warn against the use of herbal medicine for treatment as it exposes children to complications. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Joy News on TV. My personal handle is @Nana Aisha. Please stay for details. A 10-day-old baby has died at the KNUST Hospital in Kumasi in a suspected case of medical negligence. The baby was sent to the facility for a male circumcision procedure, but the hospital sources say he suffered cardiac arrest and died few minutes later while in the care of the medical team. Mohim Interior has more.
On April 3, 2023, Mohammed Jamal and Halimatu Adams took their son, Faraj Mohammed, to the KNUST hospital for a simple procedure, male circumcision. The baby was received by a nurse who took him to the theater for the procedure.
3rd April, no near Joadanopa. Na akulanenya 10 days. Inti yadwen say yebeko for circumcision. You jare akra no you ho den bibia ha no na de no call Tech Hospital. You de no call hospital no. Omo ochire theater ma ye call ho. E ma nurse ne no abeje akra no hwe no. Nti oje akra no eyi ne diaper no. E ro na tade hwe akra no hwe ne diaper hwe ne be ma ho nyina. O hwe na osi bibia ye okay.
The wild cry of the baby was heard for the last time by the parents, who were then seated at the waiting area of the theater. Then, some senior nurses and doctors were seen rushing into the theater, a development which made the parents distraught. The baby's mother, Halimatu Adams, knew something bad had happened to the baby, but had to endure a long wait to hear news about her son.
Doctor Nekasa Kra Mama Nan Kasensi or Kasana na Mekase. Gotcha said Doctor Gacha me say me banu because na my feeling say I'm pabibi I am a pam.
The thought of losing their only male child and the bizarre circumstances has left the couple traumatized.
The feeling or the pain that you go through, unless you experience it, because it's something you cannot even express it. What you go through, the psychological pains, the trauma that you go through any night, when you hear the cry of the child, the pains and even you can't do anything, you can't focus.
Authorities at the KNUST hospital have declined comments on the matter. The university relations officer says the matter has been referred to the legal department of the university. But a patient-centered non-governmental group is leading a campaign to bring justice to the Jamals. The Advocacy for Medical Malpractice Victims says it can establish a prima facie case against KNUST Hospital. Kwame Brobe Apia is the executive secretary.
For more indications, the hospital was negligent in the conduct of the circumcision. So we believe strongly that we will be able to establish a prima facie case against the hospital. And the little checks that we have made with the hospital, the indications are that, one, the person that supposedly conducted the procedure was not an expert in that field, and the person was unqualified to take up that particular exercise. Then again, we are also told that they actually did not procure the informed consent of the parents, because it's important to let them know the risk associated with the procedure and then any other outcome that they are likely to have before the process is done. That wasn't done. Also, from the investigations we have done, we know for a fact that they actually did not take the history of the baby before proceeding to, undertake the procedure. If that had been done, I am sure a lot of these issues would have been averted.
Checks at the Health Ministry indicate medical legal cases are on the rise in the country. In recent times, at least 2 medical legal cases are received every week, a development which has left Health Minister Gyakye Quayson Trial worried.
What I'm seeing of late in the ministry are issues of litigation. For the past 4 weeks or so, almost every week, we get at least one letter from the Attorney General's office. Somebody has sued somebody with problems with care, service delivery, and they want us to come with information for them to go to court with. Then we'll refer to Director General or Kumabwaji. But I've been with you for the past 6 years. Earlier when I came in, those things were not happening that much. But now it's become something, it's just climbing, it's becoming very common.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Midday reporting.
Pediatric surgeon Dr. Nimako Boateng has joined us for a conversation on this. Doc, I'm grateful for your time. What usually is the procedure in circumcision?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, and yes, if I have to speak to that, usually the procedure for circumcision is that the baby is born and the parents want the circumcision done. And they usually look for the outlet or the place that the circumcision can be done. So they just choose whether they will go to the Wazam or come to the hospital to be circumcised. Now, I know that most hospitals have set up a group of people who do the circumcision. It can be nurses, it can be doctors, or other staff that do that. In the normal circumstances of circumcision, as we have currently, if I heard from the story, there are not patients that usually are admitted and therefore have the history taken and consent stopped. The patients just come in and then they tell the team that they are going to have circumcision done, and then they go ahead and then they book them for the circumcision. Usually they will come in the morning, and then the team that conduct the circumcision in particular hospitals go ahead and do it. Looking at these things and because of issues like that, we tend to now look at the expectation of the public and the incidents that come in relation to that for us to now start changing the way we practice these things. And I will speak to it in the fact that if currently we have seen these things happening and that patients might have other things that need to be taken care of in our current dispensation, then such patients now have a protocol that says that administer patient, administer consent form. But in most practices elsewhere, you always have to get a consent form from the parents before circumcision is done. By looking at our history of circumcision coming from the Wanzam and later on making sure that it goes on in the hospital, it is a matter of family members saying the family bringing the circumcision to the done. But I can say that from this experience going forward, and might have to go further for us to be able to make sure that the right process of conducting procedure on the client is adhered.
Doc, we're told in this instant case that the mother was not there. In fact, both parents were not there whilst the circumcision was being done. Is that usually the practice?
So it usually depends on the family and their willingness to come to the have scene. In our experience, usually we get the mothers or the mother and the grandmother to come to see what is being done. Now, that is dependent on whether there's an available space for that purpose. I mean, sometimes you see in the news that people can, on the TV program, that people can have opportunity to look at procedures being done on their community. In current section of the hospital in Ghana, we haven't set up for people to easily look at what is being done in the operating. So we don't have a viewing area for them now. It depends on the protocol in the hospital that you can get anybody to come in there. But mostly it's like an operation. When the operation is being done, the relatives are waiting to go in for after the procedure before they are speak on what happened. So it's not something that within the family members are allowed, but it is easily for circumcision. Usually it's not more of something that we do the extensive preparation to do for surgery. We are often allowed into the procedure room for that purpose.
When we're growing up, Doc, we know that there are experienced people like the Wanzams who normally do this for the kids. And as you put it, the hospitals now setting up outfits where people are trained to do this. Are there usually complications that can lead to deaths? I mean, have you had cases like that in the past?
Yes, so it's a conversation, it has complications. And the complications have led to death. Most of the death-related complications have to do with bleeding. And the bleeding is because of the issue that is related to the bleeding problem related to some of the patients. And some patients will have bleeding tendencies or coagulation problems. You wouldn't know those things at that time. But some of the things that you know is how late the bleeding from the pulse is and things like that, or in the dog prick will tell you that the child is bleeding so much. So the bleeding at that age usually don't have history on the patient's state in terms of how they are able to stop their bleeding from continuing. So yes, some people die from the bleeding, but the bleeding for circumcision can be so continuous that at some point it becomes difficult to stop because the blood vessels that are on the skin of the penis, it will retract. That means it pulls away when it cuts, and therefore sometimes it's difficult to trace it all the way back to where it has gone to. So if the thing is done, then you don't stop the bleeding at the same time, then it starts bleeding. It can go on for a while. That's the only one we know of, because essentially we barely give any kind of anesthesia for these patients. Usually, the further we go is to do a penile block, which is like giving some kind of local anesthesia so that they can stop the pain and then can conduct the procedure.
In this instant case, Doc, the hospital is citing cardiac arrest as the cause of the child's death. Is there a correlation between cardiac arrest and circumcision and cardiac arrest?
Not so far as we know as common complications of circumcision. Now that's what I was saying, that depends on whether they give general anesthesia or local anesthesia. And then the local anesthesia, whether that local anesthesia went into a blood vessel, and therefore we are delivering an anesthetic agent into a blood vessel. We wouldn't know what actually went on. They would need a postmortem to assess what actually happened. But then those kind of complications can occur in any procedure in surgery. So we will say in surgery that there's no small procedure in surgery. Anything can happen. Now, if they did local anesthesia, then we need to look into it and see whether the thing they did went straight to the blood vessel. And you have to know that the penis has a lot of blood vessels around it, and you need to identify where they are before we start infiltrating these things. There are guidelines to prevent us from going in there. But then if you give general anesthesia for that, then that one has other complications that you cannot foresee. And that one you need the intensivist to give you more information on that.
Dr. Nimako, I'm grateful for your time. Let's stay a bit longer on this story and speak with Kwame Brobe-Appiah. He's Executive Secretary of Advocacy for Medical Malpractice Victims, and he's joined us now. I'm grateful for your time, Dr. Brobe. You've taken up this incident. I mean, what's informing your suspicion of a possible medical negligence?
Well, thank you. Our suspicion is born out of the fact that when we had a narrative from the parents, we decided to embark on a little investigation around the story. And as an organization that is patient-centered and interested in patient safety, we did our own probing, and we realized that something has actually gone untoward so far as what happened is concerned.
So what kind of relief does the organization provide for victims or families? And in this case, what are you looking out for?
Well, so our primary objective is to assess justice for patients who have encountered various instances of medical malpractice. So normally what we do is to engage the facilities involved to try to see if we can have a solution to the problem at hand. And if that fails, we proceed to court to seek justice on behalf of the victim. So that is what we are trying to do in this particular instance. So
that's how far you will push for justice? You want to go to court?
That is what we intend to do, because we have already had prior engagements with the university, and I think we were not able to come to any logical conclusion on the matter. So as it stands now, that will be an alternative for us.
And when are you doing that?
Pretty soon.
You have a date?
I can assure you by close of tomorrow, we would have issued send them with a rate.
All the best. Dr. Kwame Brobe-Appiah is Executive Secretary Advocacy for Medical Malpractice Victims, and they say they're taking up this case to look for justice for the family. Let's come back to Accra, because the Court of Appeal has, in a unanimous decision, ruled that alleged prejudicial comments made by President Akufo Addo did not influence the decision of the High Court to hear the Gyakye Quayson trial on a day-to-day basis. The court has a result giving the green light for this mode of trial to continue. The legislature has in the last few weeks set in motion multiple legal processes, all in a bid to halt this court schedule. The High Court yesterday opted to proceed with the case despite a pending process at the Court of Appeal on the same matter. Well, the Court of Appeal has ruled that the judge acted within the law. Legal Affairs correspondent Joseph Akable joins us with more. Joe, first tell us about the legal arguments advanced by both sides.
As far as lawyers for Mr. Quayson are concerned, they made a point that some comments have been made by some individuals. Specific reference was made to President Akufo Addo, also the Attorney General himself, and other ministers of state. And they say that those comments point to the fact that it is the desire of these individuals that Gyakye Quayson is jailed. And it is in furtherance of those comments that they believe the court opted to have the hearing on a day-to-day basis. So at the end, the court that the trial be put on hold because they believe that the Court of Appeal will eventually come to the conclusion that the judge got it wrong. The Attorney General disagreed strongly and made a point that the issue that was before the High Court was to decide how to regulate these proceedings, and that the comments that have been allegedly made by various individuals did not play any part in the court deciding how to regulate these proceedings. And the law allows the court to decide how to regulate these proceedings. And so here the court disagreed with that particular argument that has been made, and the Court of Appeal upheld the argument and concluded that the judge acted within law when she opted to fix the hearing on a day-to-day basis, and that those comments did not influence the court in its decision in that regard.
Let's talk about the ruling of the court today.
And so on the point about the fact that the outcome in terms of what was decided at the lower court, the High Court, was consistent with stated principles of law. Reference was made to a number of cases, including the Republic versus Bafo-Boni case, and also practice directives that have been issued by the Chief Justice to make the point that all these allow for a court to regulate its proceedings and ensure that the case is heard within a reasonable time. And so this is consistent with those particular directives. And so day-to-day hearing, the Court of Appeal is not unusual in Ghana's legal system.
What have Mr. Quayson's lawyers been saying?
I'm quite unhappy about these developments. Director of Legal at the NDC, Abraham Maliban, makes the point that they are extremely disappointed, but nonetheless, there's another leg of the matter that is at the Supreme Court, which they intend to forcefully pursue as well, and they know that eventually they will get things their way as they want it.
Joseph, I'll have you hold because a 9-member Supreme Court panel today also presided over by the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokono has dismissed a request that it holds Parliament's consideration of the anti-gay bill. The court says it has not been convinced to issue such an order at this stage since the matters raised will be dealt with in the substantive case. This is the court's decision in the case filed by researcher Dr. Amanda Odoi, who is alleging Parliament's work on the proposed law is in breach of the Constitution. Dr. Odoi's legal team additionally withdrew the case of contempt filed against the Speaker of Parliament. And Joseph, let's talk about the arguments that ensued, why the court was convinced.
And so in terms of the issues that were raised, Dr. Amanda Odoi, their major concern is that the anti-LGBT bill it's a private member's bill, and that the Constitution provides that such a bill which imposes financial obligations on the consolidated fund should not be used by a private member. So that is the main concern they have, and they say that if the court allows Parliament to go ahead to consider and pass the bill, it will mean that the bill will comes into effect, and money is spent by the state to provide health care to such persons. And how do we refund the money if the money has already been spent? And so they think that it's in the interest of justice that at this stage, when the consideration is put on hold before it is dealt with. But, lawyers for the Speaker of Parliament, represented by Sadio Kerry, pointed out that the Speaker has not acted outside the remit of the Constitution, and that Parliament as an institution has the mandate to undertake consideration of laws and pass them appropriately. And so he does not think an injunction is appropriate. The Attorney General's office, represented by a Chief Attorney, also backed this view and insisted that the Speaker of Parliament ought not be injuncted in proceeding with the case. The court concluded that it has not been convinced to injunct Parliament at this stage, and especially because the matters that have been raised are of a contentious nature, which will be dealt with once the court considers the substantive case. And so it dismissed the application for injunction. Aisha.
Joseph Akable is our legal affairs correspondent. Certainly there's more we'll be bringing your way in our subsequent bulletins. Let's head to Parliament because Majority Chief Whip Frank Anno-Domprey is defending the continuous absence of some of his NPP colleagues from sittings. Despite the NDC minority's boycott of the House, the NPP side have not been able to marshal all its numbers to be able to do business, leaving the House handicapped. According to Frank Anno-Domprey, there's no parliament in the world where all MPs come to the floor at a time.
And other jurisdictions that we are seeking to emulate. You don't see all the members of parliament in the chamber at a point T. I don't know if you can cite an instance where you, unless maybe there are ceremonial occasions that you find a full house. I am proud to say, and I'll say this on behalf of our majority, all the things we want to pass, we've passed them. And we cannot make decisions without our numbers. Important decisions cannot be made without our numbers. Anytime we want to pass stuff, we've got them passed. And we've got our numbers marshaled. So that one you have to understand. Besides the point, there are ministers who are also members of parliament. And we have to be practical here. Sometimes somebody is traveling out of a jurisdiction, there's nothing you can do about it. And if I pick my data now and look at leave of absence that I have a lot, many more members who are on leave of absence. Some on medical grounds, some on official duties. So that one never arises. Your side is empty. You are saying that you are boycotting parliament. The substance of my case here is that you said, nobody told you to say that. Out of your own volition, Tuforson said, we are going to boycott parliament. Is committee meetings not part of parliament? Is it not? It is. Yes, it is. So who are you deceiving? Tuforson should come clear on this matter. I think that they should bury their head down in shame. It's a very unpopular decision by the leadership. I know their side is divided about it. Yes, they are divided about it. So if you want to boycott parliament in its entirety. Don't pick and choose.
Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante has joined us with more. Kweku, how was Parliament different today in terms of numbers and representation from the minority? We know today the Gyakye Quayson case was heard.
Well, Aisha, now today the proceedings in Parliament is a bit different because despite the minority threatening to boycott Parliament every time there was a sitting of the court regarding Gyakye Quayson's case, they are in Parliament today. The leadership led by Dr. Akufo Addo are all on the floor. We can confirm now that the minority have advised their sons to boycott sittings every time that Gyakye Quayson is in court. In fact, they put out a statement signed by the chief whip. They say that they are going to escalate their protest of the prosecution of Gyakye Quayson, although they are not specifically giving details of what exactly they are going to do. They've said it out that it appears they are going to come to Parliament despite the court cases going on, but they are going to frustrate government business. For the start, they have raised issues of quorum. As soon as Parliament started sitting, the minority led by Kwame Ekyedata raised issues of quorum and said that the House did not have the numbers to be able to proceed to do business, and because of that, the House will seek an adjournment. The Speaker has received the invitation because as per the standing orders, you need to wait for 10 minutes, the bell will have to be rung, and after some time, House will have to decide whether there is quorum or not. The Speaker of Parliament says it is left with another 5 minutes before he can make that determination. If in the next 5 minutes, there are not up to 92 MPs on the floor, the ordinary quorum to do business, the House will be forced to take an adjournment. So this appears to be the new strategy adopted by the minority, that now they will come to the floor of the House, but they will do all they can to frustrate government business by mainly raising issues of quorum and asking the House to adjourn. We've also heard from the minority chief whip, who has also been firing back at the majority over the last few days that they've been boycotting Parliament. The majority have raised issues about a sabotage by the minority. They say that their absence is not what is leaving Parliament handicapped, and that if the majority side are minded to do business, they have 138 MPs, they can bring all of them on the floor and do business. It does not lie in their mouth to put the blame on the minority for the lack of action on the floor.
Kweku Asante is our man in Parliament. Let's move on from Parliament and to other stories. There's an increase in the demand for an urgent government intervention to provide holistic care for the mentally ill. Attempts by non-governmental organizations to complement government efforts have been overstretched due to the immense need for human and financial resources. Reducing stigma, ensuring access to quality mental health care in Ghana remain a mission yet to be accomplished. Hannah Dame has been exploring the case of mental health care in this feature titled Minds on the Street.
Sometimes I feel very bad because some are very young and some are very old too, and some too, they are not clothing well, so sometimes you feel bad about it.
It is not only about how they feel, but the pain they can also inflict on anyone they come by. In August 2022, a mentally challenged woman hit a man with stones at this particular spot. For those who stay and live around, it was a moment of reawakening. For how long are they going to tolerate or look over their shoulders when they see a mentally challenged person in their vicinity? That torturous incident lingers on the minds of many who heard it, but most especially on the minds of those who witnessed that horrific act. The thought of being attacked, abused, or beaten by a mentally challenged person is an act no one would want to experience.
It's quite frustrating of late. I do meet them. Sometimes they come towards you whilst you are working, and you are a little scared, especially during the nights, and you feel you should run away. And when you try to, they try to follow you. It is something which is really, uncomfortable. And I feel the government should, in a way, try to put them together in one place. some are very threats to life.
That intervention to get them off the streets was announced on March 2022 by the then medical director of the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, Dr. Pinaman Apau. She revealed the redevelopment of the facility into a 220-bed hospital was under government's Agenda 111 program and was part of many other projects, including the construction of 101 district hospitals, 6 regional hospitals, and 2 psychiatric hospitals.
Experts are warning against the use of herbal medicine for the treatment of childhood cancers. It exposes children to more delicate diseases. It has been revealed that children with reported cases of cancer at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital currently have only 20% of survival rate. The situation has been attributed to misdiagnosis, late presentation, and abandonment of medication by parents due to high costs of treatment. Currently, global estimates peg the number of children with cancer in Ghana to over 1,000 a year. But Dr. Francisca Boateng, who is with the Department of Child Health at Kolebu and a member of the Ghana Medical Association, says the number has been underestimated because some of the children are dying undiagnosed. She spoke on the Super Morning Show.
Because of the late presentation, say about 20%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Currently, only about 20% of the children who come into the hospital system survive it.
Yes.
And we heard a rather disturbing figure that there are about you're getting about 250 cases.
180 on the average
a year.
But mind you, there are about, based on the global estimates, there are about 1,200 children under 15 who have cancer a year. So if
in Ghana.
So if we're seeing about 180 and say Konfanochi is seeing close to that, that is less than half the cases that actually have cancer. And obviously we are underestimating the people that have cancer.
Right.
So 20% of those that actually come for healthcare are surviving. So you can imagine, I mean, if you're talking about countrywide, maybe if you have to do the right extrapolation, you're seeing about 10%, 5%, because some of them are dying undiagnosed.
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
And what are the common cases today?
So on our ward, we'll say most of them are leukemias.
Leukemias and then the lymphomas.
Yeah.
And this low survival rate is completely down to late detection or late reporting.
Late presentation.
So late presentation.
Misdiagnosis,
yes. And then also abandonment of treatment. So we actually have parents who start on treatment and then disappear.
Why? Is it the financial?
Yes, the cost. The medications are quite costly. And the investigations involved, they are quite expensive.
And then the mentality. So this country is plagued with people thinking that the herbal preparation, so you have a lump, for instance, and you hear people talking about herbal medication to melt the lump. So they are hearing things from other people, the people at home. They trust them more because somebody will come and say, oh, my child had a lump here. You know, I applied this herbal preparation, it went. And I mean, obviously, they'll take that over having to stay in the hospital for long periods. They are scared of the chemotherapy drugs. So what they don't know, I'll say, kills them because they think that other forms of treatment are better or will work.
She's however warned parents to desist using herbal medicine to treat children with cancer as it exposes them more to other delicate diseases.
If you're drinking a herbal concoction, it's going into your stomach. It's coming out of your alimentary canal. So from mouth to anus, excuse my language, I mean.
No,
yes.
It's proper language.
So essentially
anus.
that, yes. And so something that goes through your alimentary canal cannot reach a cancerous cell that's probably in your hand. Essentially. I mean, typically, because the anti-cancer medications are mostly intravenous. So they go through the venous system, the blood, and then reaches the other points in the body. So if someone is drinking a herbal preparation, it's unlikely that it will go and touch the cancerous cell there. Secondly, we don't know what these herbal preparations are made of. Most of them are causing kidney failure, they're causing liver failure. So they're only going to cause more harm than good. So basically, I mean, if you hear things like this, you need to ask yourself, is it something that makes sense?
And coming up in business, there are calls for government to devise ways of diversifying revenue in the country. More in business with Darryl Kwa.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwa. Partner Deloitte Ghana Yaolate has urged government to devise ways of diversifying revenue sources to aid the economy. Speaking on Joy Business's pre-media budget forum, he also called on managers of the economy to address the mounting public debt, which is taking the country to the IMF.
What we haven't dealt with, and obviously answering your question to leadership from government, it's the factors that took us to the IMF and that has historically taken us to the IMF, which I'll outline. First one is our low revenue base and lack of diversified source of revenue. So our revenue base has significantly been skewed towards taxation. And I hear all the complaints by industry associations. And so we've always dwelt on taxation. And you realize that in the last two budgets that was presented, you were expecting to rake in about 100 billion Ghana cedis. 77 billion of that was supposed to come from taxes. So 77% of your tax was supposed to finance your total expenditure for the year. That was, in my view, very high risk that you're taking because you have not diversified your revenue sources. So our inability to diversify our revenue source, not only with the current government, but even for successive government, it's one of the challenges that we are facing today. And if you don't tackle that problem head on, you will continue to have issues. The second issue has been our public debt. So we have increased our public debt significantly in the last few years, mainly on account of a number of factors. Some of them are systemic. So I would say, for example, the exchange rate. As your local currency depreciated, your external debt increased. So our external debt has increased roughly by 100 billion in the last 2 years because our local currency has depreciated. And you can see that reflected. But there are some issues that I would say it's within the control of government, which obviously created or resulted in that. I would say of the first one is where there were three issues. So one is the energy sector issue. So we've had issues in the energy sector. We have to address that. And
you mean the IPPs?
Yes, so the IPPs. So the independent power producers. The second has been our issue with the financial sector. So we try to do the financial sector bailout, financial sector reforms. That also created another debt burden of about 25 billion.
All right, in other news, the Office of the Registrar of Companies will soon roll out a software to assist and provide services to individuals with low literacy levels. The digital platform will also ease accessibility and patronage of services of the ORC. This was revealed at the inauguration of the ORC office complex in Kumasi. Here's more.
The three-story building of the Office of the Registrar of Companies in Kumasi is to get closer to the business community and improve the quality of services provided to clients in the northern sector of Ghana. It cost 8 million Ghana cedis and was financed using internally generated funds from the Registrar General's Department and the Office of the Registrar of Companies. The ORC is responsible for registering, managing and regulating commercial enterprises. Registrar General Jemima Mama Owari says failure to digitize systems and processes at the office would be costly for the country. She says the digital operation will help phase out the activities of middlemen in transactions and access to services.
We acknowledge the fact, though, that we are in a digital era, and there are still some people in our society who, unfortunately, have not been exposed to this. This office will therefore have a specialized division to assist clients who generally have no knowledge in IT and require aid. But let me make a point here. It's not going to be that forever and ever you'll be coming here to get help. We'll help you once, and then you go and try and use the system yourself. So we cut out the continuous flow of human traffic to this place. With the assistance of the World Bank, this new software that I'm talking about will replace the current one, which is giving us lots of challenges currently. It's going to be migrated onto the G Cloud before the end of August, and I believe our services will improve considerably.
Ashanti Regional Head of ORC, Nana Mecha Prempe, says the inception of the ORC in 2019 has seen an increase in business and company registration in the region.
The digitalization process has helped because the turnaround time is quicker. It used to take about 3 months for you to get a name because we had to thumb through manuscripts to be able to determine whether this one has registered or not. But right now, at the touch of a button, you're able to determine whether this name is on the system or not. So it takes a shorter time for us to process documents.
The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Godfred Yeboah Dame, wants permanent offices of the ORC to be established in all regions.
I've stated before that effectively harnessed, the Office of Registrar of Companies possesses the ability to be a formidable organ for the state in the area of good governance and the fight against corruption. In this regard, it is an absolute imperative for the ORC to have permanent offices around the country. The ORC needs to be firmly established in every region and district of Ghana. The Kumasi office of the ORC, that ought not to be the last of the expansion drive of the ORC. I assure you of the government support for the Office of Registrar of Companies to acquire its own permanent offices in all the regions of Ghana, so as to improve service delivery and ease of doing business.
For Joy Business, Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
And that's it for the segment. Sports is up next. It's time for sports here on Midday with me, Harun Mubarak. Now, the Black Queens will face Benin in the second round of the 2024 Olympic Games qualifiers. This follows their 7-0 aggregate win over Guinea over 2 legs. Now, despite the emphatic win, head coach Nora Hapto is not getting carried away. She wants more improvement from her side ahead of the game against Benin in October.
We leveled up in terms to the first game we had away in Guinea. I think we liked that the pitch is rolling much better here, so our possession game was good. Our rest defense was perfectly set, so we didn't allow them to enter in counter-attacks. I think we had a big dominance on the pitch. Of course, the only thing I can maybe judge is that we should have scored a bit more goals out of all these chances. But all in all, I'm very satisfied, happy that we passed this first qualification round, and we want to aim high. Of course, it's just the first step and the next step in our mission Volta. I think it's always good to take it step by step. So we passed now the first round, and then you're right, it's Benin or Guinea-Bissau waiting. We know Benin already from a friendly from February. Of course, we then analyze very good opponents and just focus then to take also the next step. We said this week we are like all in a boat together, our team, riding the mission Volta, and we always need to ensure that we go into the next harbor, so make the next step, and then we can think about the third and fourth ride. Okay. In between is also the WAFCON qualifier, so in September we go to Rwanda first and face them in the WAFCON qualifiers first round. We work a lot on our principles, on our game plan, strategy. We focus a lot on us to strengthen and level up our strengths. Of course, beside we always do a good opponent analysis. We always have a high respect of every opponent we face. We try to find their weaknesses, the right spaces. So my staff, you will see it, will make a very good job in analyzing also of them. But we work a lot on us, on the focus is on us to level up our players on position, and I think this is the main focus.
to club football, and Hearts of Oak say they have already paid a portion of the arrears owed former coach Slavko Matic after FIFA intervened in the matter on Tuesday. The Phobians were reported to have been ordered by FIFA to pay the Serbian coach an amount of $50,000 for wrongful termination of his contract back in March this year. But the Phobians have clarified the issue in a statement. They said the amount owed Matic is $14,000, a portion of which has been paid to the coach. That's your sports with me, Haruna Mubarak. Up next is World News.
Time now for showbiz, and Kitava Fosia Mankwa is set to represent Ghana at the 2023 edition of the Miss Grand International Pageant. Speaking at the crowning ceremony in Accra, the half-Thai Ghanaian Cambodian says she is ready to win the crown for Ghana. More in this report.
It was a night of elegance, culture, and beauty at the crowning ceremony of Miss Grand Ghana 2023. Kitava Fosua Amankwa was unveiled and crowned Miss Grand Ghana 2023 and will represent Ghana on the world stage at the Miss Grand International. According to her, she is ready to showcase Ghana's culture to the rest of the world.
Ghana have a beautiful culture, nice people, good food, beautiful dance. People are very, very nice for me. I will give this one to the people in the world. I want to make Ghana, this my father country and your country. I want to make this a country to one destination. The people in the world want to come to see the people, come to eat some food, come to look for the nice people and the culture.
Speaking to Joy News, president of Miss Grand Ghana, Abena Ekwaba Apia, says more support is needed to push Fosia Amankwa to win the ultimate.
It takes so much for a Ghanaian to be able to win international pageant, for people to support, for people to even see your vision. And I have faith that Kitava can be able to send Ghana on the map. I have a feeling that she can do that. So that's basically what we're trying to do. So we pray that you support us. We pray that you empower us as we're trying to empower others, and then you continue to follow our journey.
Miss Grand International is set to take place in October 2023 in Thailand.
And that's it for Showbiz. That's how we wrap up the bulletin this afternoon. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Log on to myjoyonline.com. Over there you see more of the stories and updates of all the developing stories and some of the headlines. Supreme Court throws out injunction against anti-gay bill. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.